actions: forwards, backwards, or left or right. This means that moving the stick to the top left corner, for example, will have a 50-50 chance of rolling forward or left. It's unreliable, it's clunky, and I think it makes many of the boss fights much more difficult than they would be otherwise. The gargoyles are a much more approachable challenge and one of the more exciting and thrilling fights in the game, dealing with two powerful bosses at once. The challenge of fighting multiple enemies is dependent on keeping both targets in view, baiting out both their attacks, and maintaining enough distance not to get overwhelmed. It's a different type of challenge. It's not solely about learning how to counter an enemy's moveset, but also a challenge of intense situational awareness and timing. The two gargoyles have different movesets, that means you won't be completely overwhelmed with melee attacks. The first gargoyle has incredible range with wide sweeping strikes. It's better to get as close as possible to avoid the majority of the wide swings, and the second gargoyle most often breathes fire in a cone in front of him. These two styles of attacks make it challenging but not unfair to fight both at once. The optimal strategy is to separate the two of them long enough for the player to sneak a few hits in between. The gargoyles in many ways are the gatekeepers to most players' enjoyment of the game and the series in general. Not only do they mark the first real step in progress by ringing the first bell of awakening, but they serve as a climactic peak to the first section of the game. I just wish the game taught its players better to use the lock-on more sparingly instead of becoming totally reliant on it. This boss sucks. Surprising absolutely no one, the Capra Demon is one of the worst bosses in the game with lazy and unbalanced design. You're trapped in a tiny room with two of the most awkward and fast enemies in the game to deal with at the same time as the boss. The beginning of this fight is a total crapshoot. Best thing to do is to run to the top of the stairs and pray to whatever gods you believe in that you can kill the dogs before the onslaught of attacks overwhelms you. If you can kill the dogs, then the fight is basically over. You can either repeat the plunging attack strategy for the third time or fight him normally. Both are pretty easy. The only attack to watch out for is the two-handed swipe, which can easily one-hit kill you at this point in the game. Otherwise, the attacks are very generously telegraphed and easy to avoid. He doesn't have a lot of health either. The first half of Dark Souls is often regarded as brilliant and close to perfect, and I generally agree, except for this fight and this area. The first truly large boss in Dark Souls is more visually and thematically successful than it is mechanically. Its design is one of the most memorable of the series and truly representative of the depths the area the boss resides in. All mashed together dragon and crocodile split open down the middle and covered in teeth. The sheer size can be intimidating, and its health bar is madness for this early in the game. Mechanically, it's okay for a large boss. Easy enough to hide on its side to avoid most of the front-facing attacks. Most of its attacks are pretty straightforward, except for this walk, which basically turns its